Hello, welcome to Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy.
I'm Janet.
And my name's Ann.
We have our friend Ann here. She is someone that we met at our Pottstown Knit Out years ago. How long have you been coming to the Knit Out?
It has to be at least 6 years, maybe?
That's maybe even more.
Maybe more, yeah.
Yeah. Ann has been a vendor there. She dyes yarn and brings it and sells it for other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she always has a table at the Knit Out, and usually I end up buying something.
Me too. I have sweater quantities at home of natural yarn.
Yeah.
I always think I'm going to dye them, but I haven't tried yet.
You should do
I
that.
was talking to you. May change.
Yeah, yeah. So, to get started today, Janet, why don't you tell us what you're wearing?
Oh, I'm wearing an exclusive design by Trish McKinney from the Yarn Gallery. When I worked there, I was going to teach a class in this. It's kind of like a kimono sweater. I love the fiber. It's Fibre Company Meadow, and it's llama, wool, and linen. And there's another one, and I can't think. I think it might be cotton.
Silk, maybe?
Maybe silk. I don't know.
Which is pretty.
But
Fibre Company. Oh,
I love their yarns.
yeah, it feels really nice too. It's a nice weight for today.
Is it? It's like fingering?
They actually call it lace weight.
Oh, it's lace.
But it's a little bit, but
You
it's
think
heavy.
it's heavy
it says,
for lace?
It says that it knits up like a fingering, but it's actually lace
Yeah, it
weight.
looks really light.
Yeah, you can see the different fibers in it almost.
Oh, and I have my little llama magnetic
Oh, yeah,
closure
that's
on.
cute.
You can see it there.
Did you get that from Painted Spring?
Ew, maybe.
Maybe.
I
Painted
have this
Spring
a long
alpaca.
time.
She I don't know if she still does, but she was selling those.
I bought this at Knitter's Day Out in Harrisburg
Yeah,
one year.
you probably
I think we all, everybody bought one that year.
Yep.
They're so pretty. They have the magnetic closure.
Did they do that this year?
Knitter's Day
No.
Out. They
No.
did not last fall, but they are this coming
They are?
fall.
Oh, that's good
Yeah.
news. Yeah.
We're getting ready for it because I'm teaching actually 3 classes this year. For
You're
them.
teaching 3?
Yeah.
What are you teaching?
I didn't know that.
I'm going to be teaching intarsia and invisible stranding and advanced reversible cables.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'll be good.
I knew that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, I normally only teach 2, but they talked me into 3. They sweetened the deal enough to make it worth the extra
Wow.
day.
Yeah. Where do you stay when you do that?
Well, I don't know. I've never stayed overnight. Usually I would go just for the day on Saturday, and I
Right.
would stay overnight either with my mom when she lived there or her friend after my mom moved away. But now since I'm teaching 3 classes, they're going to pay for me to stay in their motel.
All right, then.
Nice.
But I don't
Oh,
know
wow.
which motel it is.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
sweet deal.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And, hey, if they're going to pay for my room, then okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
tomorrow.
That's great.
That is nice. And what
So-
are you
Yeah, I was
wearing?
just going to say, what are you wearing?
So this is the Ninilchik Swoncho by Caitlin Hunter,
That's beautiful.
which
What yarn is
a
that?
bazillion people have made. And this is a Stash Buster project, which has multiple different yarns in it. The top section is Handspun Hope. It's the yarn from Rwanda.
Is it all natural?
It's merino.
The color is
So
natural?
the browns, the dark brown, the light brown, and the white are the 3 natural colors from Handspun Hope. The blue is something else entirely. And then in this section down here, when I ran out of the Handspun Hope yarn, I transitioned into this lighter brown, white, and then another
dark
dark
blue.
brown down here,
Yeah.
the dark brown down here. So these 3 colors, this light brown, this whitish color, and this dark brown here, is actually your yarn.
Really?
Mountain Laurel. Yes.
Wow, coolio.
Yes.
Oh, this is an indigo that I dyed.
Well,
then.
no, not the
Or is
blue.
it this?
It's
No?
just the naturals.
Oh, so this
the white,
is
the brown, and the dark brown
this
and
is
the light
probably
brown.
a Shetland then.
I think it was Shetland. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Because when I looked it up this morning, I'm like, oh, it's Mountain Laurel yarn. It's perfect.
So nice.
And then
of
it's
you.
finished off with nature spun brown sheep.
It's really pretty.
So this was a stash buster for me. I just went in my stash and pulled out stuff that kind of went together.
How long did it take you to knit that?
Not very, because this was so much fun to knit. We
It
were
is fun.
a bunch of people in our knitting
Our group
group
did
made
it,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
So it just basically flew off the needles. So
Beautiful.
it was fun. And I made mine oversized because it's supposed to be like a sweater, but I wanted to wear it over a sweater. So I made mine oversized, and as a consequence, my availability of times when I can wear it is kind of limited. So like spring, fall, as long as it's not too cold or too hot.
It's really
Like today,
pretty.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah. And do you have something you can?
Yes, I do. I have a hat that I knit with my hand-dyed yarn. And what color is this?
It's like a light brown, greenish.
I have to look. This is dyed with nettles, which are
Nettles.
growing in my woods over here.
Oh.
The yellow is weld, which I
Okay.
told you about, that
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just growing this year. The sort of peachy, orangey color is the, just put that up there, the peachy, orangey color is matte, like the end of a madder root bath. The blue, of course, is indigo. The reddish, the darker red color is madder, and that was probably put in the pot first. And I think that's all the colors
Wow,
I
that's
have
so
in there.
pretty.
And this is a single ply merino. I sometimes buy, feel how smushy that
It
is.
is.
This is a lot like Manos, if you've ever knit
Oh, yeah.
Manos. And this is not my yarn. This is from Kramer, and they sell blanks. And if you've never been to Kramer, have you
No,
ever
I
been there?
haven't.
I have.
you have?
Have
yeah.
you? It's a really good field trip.
It
and you
is.
can stop at Knitter's Edge while
Yes,
you're up that way.
That's right.
Yeah. So Kramer sells wholesale and retail. If you go there, you can buy retail. And they have a huge selection of blank yarns that you could try dyeing yourself. Yep.
So the
That's
retail
it.
section's still open? I thought
As
they
far as
closed
I
for a while.
know, I don't know. I haven't been up
Maybe
there
it's
in a
just
while,
kind
and
of,
I
yeah.
buy on the phone. So
Oh.
they send me a huge card of all their wools, and then I just order it over the phone. But I used to go up there frequently just to see, you could buy like a single skein of something and try it and see if you liked it, and then I would buy, a lot to dye.
I've heard that they make a lot of yarns for the indie dyers.
Yes, they do. A
That's
lot
a
of people
huge-
buy their
yeah.
yarns there. It's a little more affordable than some of the, like Dharma Trading or Harrisonville. I think that's the name of it. They're up in New England. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. I like hearing about a local business.
Yeah.
Doing
And it's
well.
all family owned. Yeah. They
I remember seeing an interview at some point. This
Mhm.
was probably 4 or 5 years ago, but yeah.
I think it's two brothers that own it now. I don't know if they are the ones that started it, but in the past when I've gone up there, they've been around and they're happy. When I used to work with Christina, you remember Christina Quail? She was my partner when I first started.
Oh yeah.
He took her on a tour of their mill, which for some reason I wasn't there, and she saw all the works, and it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll have to do that maybe.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
a fun. It's a
Good
fun
idea.
thing to do.
Little road
yeah.
trip up there. I've never been.
Mm-hmm.
Janet, did you bring anything finished that you were working on?
Yes, I did. As usual. Socks.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, you got these
And I-
done. Yeah.
what yarn is
Finally
this?
got my sock blockers. This is Manos del Uruguay Alegría.
Mm-hmm.
It's the superwash and nylon.
It looks very zebra-y.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
It did do different things. I was surprised because it started out like a
Striping,
straight stripe,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
it kind of went
I
down.
like your
but that's
blocks.
okay.
Where'd you get those?
Conversational threads. I just bought them
Very nice.
last week because all podcasts have the blockers, and I didn't have them. And I just
Gotta
held up
keep
my
up
socks,
with the Joneses.
so I had to get my sock blockers.
That's cute.
And I have another pair of socks on the needles. I usually make at least 1 or 2 pairs a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
My favorite. And if I'm in the car, we're on vacation, so 5-hour trip, so I'm just knitting and knitting. So socks are always good.
Well, I brought a special item here.
Oh, that's luscious and beautiful.
So this
What
is
pattern
called
that?
the Spring Thaw Shawl.
Ooh,
And it's
pretty.
by Cheri, McEwen, I guess you would say it. It has a really pretty lace pattern on the edges. So this is doubly nice because the yarn itself, a member of our church went on a work trip to South America a few years back, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And when they came back, she brought me this skein of baby alpaca from Peru.
No wonder it's so soft. Yeah.
And it was 100 grams, so I knew it had to be like a small-ish something. And it sat in my stash, of course, waiting for inspiration. And now my niece is getting married in November, so I thought, I should make her something. And then I remembered that I had this skein in there, and I thought, I'll make her a shawl.
That'll be beautiful.
So I'm going to give this to her at her bridal shower coming up in October.
Nice.
And then she can do whatever she wants with it.
That is beautiful. Where does it start? Where do you start knitting
This
on this
starts
pattern?
Right
Oh,
here.
yeah. Is it a tag?
It's not a garter tab. It's a different cast on, which is kind of weird. And I ended up sewing it together to make it look like a garter tab because I didn't really like how the top of it looked.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of that again?
Spring Thaw
Spring
Shawl. So yeah, it grows out like a typical triangular shawl. I just really like
The pattern
Beautiful.
is
the
beautiful.
leaves. Yeah.
You did that so quickly. Like everything else.
Well, it's
I
only
know.
100 grams. I mean,
But the lace.
once you
lace
see
is
down,
grand.
I know. She,
well, and this is, believe it or
Yeah.
not, it's only a 4-row repeat.
that's a good lace
Yeah.
pattern. I like that.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
It's
too.
only at the ends here where you have to like pay attention.
Yeah, I
what's
could see
going on.
that.
So
I love patterns you don't have to pay attention to.
Yeah. I do too.
I've ripped out a pair of mitts I'm making like 5 times now because I'm watching TV. and like,
Yep.
uh-oh,
Yep.
what happened to the thumb gusset?
Did you have anything else?
Yes,
you
I
wanted
want to
to
show you some of my yarn. This is my yarn.
Oh, from your own sheep?
No,
No.
I will show
But-
you my own sheep.
Okay.
This is a rambouillet that I have right now. So when Maryland Sheep and Wool was online the last couple years
Oh,
because you
yeah.
couldn't go in person, I met a girl from Gettysburg who had rambouillet, and so sight unseen I bought it, and that's it. And it
Is
I
this
mean,
the natural color?
yes, this is the natural color.
Oh, wow.
I know. So rambouillet is actually a French merino,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it because it's smushy and soft, and I like the natural colored wool. That's how I
Yeah.
started, wanting to do just something with natural colored yarns. And this
that
is a
feels
Shetland,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
which I also have, but is almost gone because it's been pretty popular online.
I understand why.
And it is. I'll show you. if
Beautiful
this
color.
on. This is one of my
Oh, that's
patterns.
cute.
Oh, you made it
And-
up?
Yep.
That's
And
That's
it's
cool.
just a slouchy. But if you want to, if it's really cold, you can double it so it covers your ears twice, right?
Nice pattern.
Yeah. But feel this.
I have, yeah.
So that is a
Oh,
Shetland.
wow.
The parent of one of my sheep produced this wool. I have a friend that lives around
This
the
is
corner,
really nice.
Pat, and she has sheep as pets,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
has many,
That's really nice.
and she does not mill the wool, so she sells it to me and I have it milled. And I just got these sheep, and I've only had them now for 2 years, and very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They, in order to get it milled, and I use a couple of mills in the area, you have to have at least 10 pounds to start. And my sheep only produced, I don't know, like 5 or 6 pounds. And so I couldn't get it milled. So this spring, when they're sheared, I will be able to have their wool milled.
Now, will they keep the fleeces separate, or do they have to all go in one like batch?
All in one batch in terms of color.
Okay.
So one of the sheep is white and the other is sort of gray and black. You'll see her fleece when we go out. And I'll mill the one color and the other color.
Wow, that is really nice.
Beautiful.
So,
Isn't it soft?
do you
It's
have
really
this pattern
smushy.
for sale anywhere?
Not yet. I tend to just knit
Yeah.
and not write things down. But this is pretty easy. It's just,
Yeah.
knit purl. And I forget what this is called. What this
Looks
just
like
is.
kind of like a basket weave. So, Anne, tell us how you got into what it is that you're doing.
Well, my grandmother actually taught me to knit when I was little, and I kind of forgot everything that I learned.
Of course.
And then my children were all at the Waldorf school when they were little.
Oh.
And knitting is actually a class that you take from first grade through high school there.
I've heard that.
And my daughter was, now my 2 sons were pretty good knitters, but my daughter, I don't know if it didn't click or she didn't like it or what it was, but she would come home crying because the teacher would pull out mistakes and ask her to fix them. So I could not stand the thought of my daughter crying in school. So I learned to knit again, and at night I would fix her mistakes and send her knitting back to school perfect. So that's how I got started. And then a few years after that, of course, I became a total addict. Obsessed with knitting and yarn.
We don't know anything about that.
No. And I'm sure no one out there watching has any idea of what it's like to build their stash. Of course they do. So I said to my husband, I'm spending so much money on yarn. We'd save hundreds of dollars if we had sheep. Then I could just, spin their wool and knit that. So he was a little skeptical, and before he had a time to really think of it, I bought a couple sheep from this older guy that I met, Michael Jugan, and he's from Kimberton, and he raised sheep. He was also a barber, and he had a barber shop, and where I met him was at a Grange show, and he would bring sheep and shear them at the Grange show. And
He did the shearing too.
He did the shearing. So I went to him and he sold me, he was raising Suffolks at the time, and that was my first sheep. And then a guy from Beaver Farms, which is a Camp Hill village, he had a couple of Corriedales and he was going to retire them. And so I rescued them and a Shropshire, and then I had Tunis, and now I have Shetlands. So saving money on yarn is not really what happened, because there are barns and hay and grain and vets and fence, and there's the mill costs to having it milled, because after a while you can't spin all that yarn yourself unless you want to do it 24/7.
Full-time jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I take my wool to there's one girl, and she has Gertie Run Mill, and she's moving now to Virginia. She was up in Halifax. And so now I'm at Blue Mountain Fibre Mill.
How far away is that?
That's about 60 minutes, maybe an hour and 15, right outside Harrisburg, both of them. Yeah. I've tried some other mills, but these girls are just brilliant. And it's funny, so when I started with my partner, Christina, who has since gone on to bigger things, we used to drive around the area and meet farmers. We'd find them online. Somebody else would know a girl who had 2 of this. Somebody else knew a girl who had, an entire flock. and we started buying all natural wool from local people, shepherdesses, because honestly, I don't think I've met one man raising sheep in my time of buying wool from other people.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty much all women. They do the mills. They do the sheep. They've taught me how to dye. So it's mostly women, and that has been really nice. So
Wow.
yeah. So now I'm just down to 2 sheep. As I'm getting older, it's a lot to keep up with, and it's more of a hobby now than a solid business. But I do pretty well at the craft shows and knit outs and fairs.
So was there a point at which you were, say, making enough to live off of?
Oh no.
No.
No, we don't have enough land here. You really need like maybe an acre per I wouldn't say an acre per sheep, but maybe to 2 or 3 sheep. And sheep are extremely susceptible to parasites. So the ideal situation is to have a lot of land and to block it off into quadrants and move them week to week throughout the pasture. And that keeps parasite levels low, and you don't have to worm them as frequently. I use an all-natural wormer, which I get from Molly's Herbals, and it's basically garlic, walnut, and once every 6 weeks wormwood. And that keeps them pretty healthy. But now I only have 2 sheep. Now when I had way more sheep and I was moving them around, I had a parasite problem. And they will really lose weight quickly and lose energy. And then you have to use a commercial wormer and worm them hard, as Mr. Jugan used to say to me, but I don't like the chemicals. So this way, with just a few sheep, I can keep them and they're healthy and happy on the small pasture that I have. But also, hay is a quest. Finding good hay that is nutritious for sheep in this area is hard, because a lot of people use chemicals on their soils, and that depletes the nutrients in the soil, and then the hay is not as nutritious. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you're lucky if you can find somebody who does good hay.
Do you go to Lancaster?
Nope, there's a guy, John Colley. He's actually a minister.
I know John Colley.
Do you?
Yes.
I love this guy.
Yeah.
He does all my hay.
Oh,
That's who I
okay.
buy from. And he does a pretty good business. Have you ever been up there?
Not to his farm, no.
Have you been to his church?
Yes.
Isn't
yes.
it? It's right next door.
Oh, is
the
it?
farm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's big. It's nice. Yeah, so we just go up there and take what we want and leave the money on the hood of the car or whatever.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So.
So you only have 2 sheep now. So you're less into raising sheep, and what is more your current day-to-day things that you do today?
Right now it's mostly teaching. It's really sort of like a personal mission is to bring fiber arts to young children. I find that many of my students don't even know how to tie their shoes anymore, because they've had Velcro their whole life, or slip-ons of some kind. And actually knitting or anything you do with your hand increases not just dexterity, but there's a connection between what you're doing with your hands and your heart and your mind. And so when you engage all 3, it just it stimulates the intellect in a way that just reading or writing or numbers or any of these other like things that we do in education for the children to learn, and they love it. So right now I'm teaching at the Pottstown Middle School in a after-school fiber arts program, and I love these kids. They're all just delightful. It's like the highlight of my week when I go up there, and they'll just be like stitching away, and somebody will say, "This is so chill," And I'm like, yes, it is. It's almost like meditation, actually, when you really get into a flow with what you're making. It creates just this like serene, contemplative attitude that you don't find in sports or many other activities that we, send our children to in this very regimented way. There's also the opportunity to be creative because none of them makes the same way as the other one does, and they love that. Like mine is this and yours looks like that, and they're also, they complement each other. It creates this like opportunity for them to say, wow, that is really beautiful. And so
and there's not necessarily any one right way to do
exactly
something.
And there's no grades. There's we're just making for the joy of making, which is really wonderful. So I do that. I teach knitting. I'm also, there's a gallery in Pottstown. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's
Not recently. The
No.
High Street?
High Street.
It's on Beach Street. It's
Oh.
Art Fusion.
I've
So-
heard of it. Have not been there.
It's a 501(c), and so they have grants. I don't know where the money comes from. These girls are brilliant at raising money, and they offer free art classes of all kinds to
Need
young
to check
children.
That out.
And then they have night classes for adults, and they actually charge for that. And you can become a member, and you get a reduction in cost of your classes. And they have painting, drawing, glass fusion, metalsmithing with jewelry, sculpture, pottery. So Julie and Kristen are the two girls that run the place, and they both teach, but they have lots of other classes. And so I teach knitting there, I teach dyeing.
You do? Wow.
Yeah, it's a really great place. And they have a little gallery. So if you're a member, you can show your work. You can sell your knitting. They take like knitted projects. You make an application, and then if you're accepted, then you can show your work there. It's a beautiful place. It's in an old factory. So the gallery must have been part of a loading dock. And there's big classrooms, and then the gallery is in the front.
I know exactly where it is.
Yeah,
I just
really
did
cool
not know
place.
that Art Fusion was in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they sort of contract me out to different organizations. Right now it's Pottstown Middle School, and then they'll send me like to camps, and they run their own camps all summer long. And
This
there's
is fascinating.
lots of scholarships for kids in the neighborhood. So
Wow.
camp is coming. This summer I'm teaching the shibori dyeing and mushroom sculpture, which I take leftover pieces of fabric and hand stitch little mushrooms, and they're like ornaments for your tree at Christmas time, or just like hanging on your door or on your dresser or whatever. The children love the mushrooms. I did that with the kids at the middle school. We did shibori dyeing, soap felting. What else have I done? I've had we did baskets, we did weaving. We've done so much.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
and then
And
the other thing on the side is I dye my yarn.
Okay.
So if I have white yarn, I will pretty much dye it all. This is an example of logwood, which creates
beautiful.
anything from violet to a deep dark purple. And this is a Shetland, and Shetlands have multiple colors. They come in a range of colors from tan to black. And this was I think it was called a morit, and that was sort of almost like a pinky beige color. And I over dyed, with the logwood,
That's
which is
pretty.
from a tree. Right. So all my dyes are plant derived. I do indigo, that is probably what I use most, and madder root, which creates a red. And then you can shift colors depending on what you add into the bath, whether it's iron, or if you mordant with a tannin, that'll shift a color. Yeah, so I try to use all natural products. You can use iron. You just put a couple of rusty nails in a jar of vinegar, and eventually you can mordant your fabric or your yarn in the iron, and that will shift to color. It saddens colors. So if you were to use onion skins and you were to put it in an iron mordant, the fabric would come up a dark, sort of rusty yellow, orangey color. Yeah. So
Fascinating.
Wow,
what I'm
it certainly
doing now.
is. Oh my gosh, you keep busy.
So what
Yes,
is
I do.
what is this that you're making with this yarn?
This is one of my favorite patterns. It's from Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's called Oakenclough. Oakenclough.
I thought it was a D, but it's not.
No, it's a C.
C-O.
I think it's Scottish, but there's the name of the pattern, and I got that off Ravelry. And it's just worked in the
It has
round.
a
It's
pretty
lace pattern for mitts. And I assume you could continue the pattern and make mittens, but I'm just making these as a purple obsessed friend who did me a solid is getting these. But that's a
Feels
Shetland
nice, too.
Yeah.
DK. I tend to have my yarns mostly milled in a DK because it's sort of like in the middle, and it's a popular weight for patterns.
Yeah, we both like DK weight.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have something
Very
you're
nice.
working on, Janet?
Oh yes, I'm making the Parks and Rec pullover, and I'm going to pull up a picture on. Here we
Isn't
go.
that pretty?
This is by Knitting the Stash, Melissa. Get here. Okay. So what it
What
is,
is
it's
this
just a
yarn?
basic V-neck pullover, and you hold 2 strands of yarn together for the body.
Is that a
Mohair, silk mohair. That's Olan silk mohair.
What is this? Alpaca?
And no, this is hedgehog fibers, just merino and nylon.
Ooh, beautiful. Uh-oh, there went your stitches.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm holding the mohair together with the fingering weight for the body, and then the sleeves will just be the fingering weight. So I thought, usually I cannot wear heavy sweaters like Joy. These heavy wool sweaters.
Yeah.
I just die in them. And so I thought this would be perfect for me with the lighter weight sleeve. Might be a little cooler.
Color
Although
is
wearing
beautiful too.
wearing mohair sweaters lately, though, I noticed they're really not. I don't overheat in them.
No?
I don't know what it is about the silk mohair.
Hmm.
It's very comfortable. I did change up the pattern. It's knit from the bottom up, and I put some openings on the sides. I made the back a little bit longer, the back ribbing a little bit longer than the front.
That is
And
beautiful.
oh, I should show the yarn. What I'm doing too, because I only have 2 balls of this mohair
Now, where did you get that?
from Conversational Threads. in
Yeah,
Lace.
this is really pretty.
That is beautiful. It's
And
shimmery.
It
So
just so
soft.
happened to find the hedgehog
Yeah, look.
fibers that had the same shades
Wow.
in it. So I thought I saved this for a sweater. So what I'm doing, because I don't have enough mohair for the body, is just doing 2 rows. I'm alternating. I'm dropping the mohair every 2 rows, and you really cannot tell.
No,
You
not at all.
cannot, and it is
On the other side you
beautiful.
can, though.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but you really can't tell. And I didn't. Even if you could, I wouldn't mind. It would look like stripes. It all blends together.
That's really pretty.
So
Do you?
it's fun. Size 2 needles.
Do you have, like, is texture important to you?
Yes.
So what?
Very.
What do you think is? What kind of texture do you prefer?
I have to say, non-woolly. Just something soft and soft looking.
Like a lot of the
Because
indie
I
dyed
itch.
yarns.
Yeah, I itch from wool.
What
Now
about
does
you?
that
Wolf.
sweater itch you?
No, this one doesn't.
May
This is a
have
good
to do
blend
with
of the
what's
linen
in
and-
it. Yeah.
The linen and yeah. But Joy could wear anything.
Well, not anything, but I prefer more rustic.
Me too.
Yeah,
Something with tooth.
Like this.
Yeah.
I just love this. Of course, you like this too.
Oh, I like that too. That feels
Yeah.
great.
Shetland is very
well, something
soft.
like that is fine, but some of the other wools, like the Eco Wool, Cascades Eco Wool, that's really rough. That's hard.
I've never tried that.
Yeah, I haven't used that one either.
No, I like something a little bit softer.
There's also something, with the commercial yarns that, particularly the washable yarns, they have been treated, and it removes some of the scales on the fiber, and that gives it that silky, soft feeling. Like particularly a superwash merino would be almost to me like silk.
Yeah.
In its
Texture,
and feel, right?
I like the way it feels, but I found I made a couple of sweaters in the superwash merino, and they stretch out terribly.
Because they don't hold each other anymore. Yeah.
So
And the scales have been removed.
I really
And there's-
haven't been buying superwash as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Well, you still buy it. You just use it for shawls instead of sweaters.
Well, socks too.
Oh yeah, socks.
Yeah, socks.
Yeah.
Mostly for socks. But
I don't
not for
think you can
sweaters.
find sock wool that has not been superwashed. Can you?
You can,
I
but
do.
it's hard. I mean, you have to
It's
search.
rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be an upcoming thing because I've been reading here and there about people, wanting to do away with the nylon in their
Right.
sock yarn.
But what would you put in there for durability? Silk?
I don't know, because I bought one that was bamboo instead of nylon, and they wore out in the first year that I wore
Really?
them. Yeah.
I know. I made the socks for my aunt, and they just, after a month of, she wore them barefoot around the house for a month, and she had holes in the bottom.
Yeah.
I
Without
think
the
that
nylon.
you can buy nylon separately, and what you do is you knit it into the heel,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sell the
probably
little spools, yeah.
across the bottom of the top of your foot,
Yeah.
where it would get the most wear,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest would just be the 100%
That would be a good
wool.
solution.
That's what I think your grandmother probably did.
Or like in the old days, they would do the afterthought heel and toe, and then when it wore out,
You could just
replace
pop it
it.
back on
Right.
the needles and reknit it. Yeah, that's an idea. I never thought of that. Huh. I have quite a few holes in my socks up there.
Or get out your egg and stick it in there and darn it.
Yeah, that's a big thing now.
Well,
is
speaking
What do
of
you do,
socks,
Joy?
I finished the saccata ones I was
you
working on
finished
last
them?
time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This saccata is even nicer than the old saccata.
Is it?
Yes.
What is this?
It's a wool cotton blend
Wow.
from Plymouth.
They discontinued it for a while.
Yeah.
And then I found it up at conversation.
What size needles
Knitter's
do you
Edge.
have?
I use ones for
Oh
socks.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Look at this.
I use ones also.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
So now that I finished those, I started a pair for my husband.
And how many do you cast on? Is this 64?
That's 60.
Hmm.
And this for my husband is 72.
Mm. Wow, that's
So
pretty
this-
too. Who
this
made
is,
that yarn?
This is, I have no idea. This
It's a
is,
mystery from me.
Janet gifted
You
this
found it
yarn
in
to
your
me.
Stash and there was no
Yeah,
label.
there was no
Right.
label. So, and I did short row heel and toes on this one. So, for example, if this heel or toe were to wear out, it would be easy to replace these.
Where do you start? Oh,
I s-
obviously at the toe.
Mhm.
I see it's still on your
Started
needles.
at
What
the
about
toe.
you?
Top.
Top
cuff.
down?
Top down.
Yeah,
I
me too.
normally do top down. That's the way this pair was done.
Mhm.
It's top down.
But for your husband, you usually start from the toe
I
up.
start from the
Yeah.
toe up because he likes his socks really long, and it's usually longer than 100 gram skein will get me. So I'll knit this up until I'm at 50 grams, and then just bind it off, and then do the second one. So I don't have to worry about running out of yarn at the toe.
So now this isn't the same yarn as this.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yes.
It feels very different.
This has something in it. I'm
Yep.
betting.
Yep. Some
Like
kind
some
of tweed.
silk
Oh.
or I was thinking silk or
Nylon.
alpaca or something.
I don't know.
But
I don't
and
know.
This
totally
is just
different
wool.
texture.
Yeah.
Really pretty colors though.
So
That
that's
has more pink in it than I remember.
Yeah,
Is
there
he
is
okay
quite.
with that?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't mind
Yes, he
pink.
will.
He
You
doesn't
made
mind
him
pink.
socks.
He loves her socks. Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, how about if we take a little tour of your place?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just tell you that many plants can give you color. So the rhododendron leaves
Yeah.
I dyed with last fall, and it gave me this spectacular gold color.
Now, did you know that going into it,
No,
or you just
I had no idea,
experimenting?
just experimented. Nettles make that green, and if you add a little iron to the back, it will make it more like an olive green. Hi, girl. Should I close? Okay, come on. Here.
Now, when will you have them shorn?
Any day. I just have to wait for my guy to call me,
Oh, okay.
and he comes if he's in the neighborhood. So I think I got 6 pounds off of each of them the fall before.
Oh, wow.
Sheep only have teeth on one side of their mouth, the
You,
lower jaw.
only on the bottom jaw.
There's nothing on the top. Things are where the color is going to come from. And this takes 2 years to get this. Marigold is an excellent dye. You can put the whole flower on fabric, and the fabric will take the shape and colors. I think I've had this in here 3 years. So you want to wait at least 3 years to harvest the roots, and you get the color from the roots. I can't believe I can See the color there? So, but you really do have to wait
Huh.
like 3 years.